Man, I look so 90s right now. This is what I looked like in the 90s. I'm ageless. It ain't easy being. Yeah.
Turn that on. Okay. We should be good. How are you?
Good. Hello, friends and brothers. Glad to see you. How are you, Justin?
I'm great,
It's been
man.
a crazy week, huh?
Yeah, I guess so. Finally got some rain today. It was unexpected. It was welcome, though.
Nice.
I was
We
actually.
had some at the beginning of the week.
Oh, did you? Like a storm or what?
Yeah, because we always get it whenever there's a tropical storm and anything like that. I mean, in fact, we were watching it to make sure it didn't turn into a hurricane. You know, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
that's real down here.
Well, I was actually, I just I was at an investigation, and for a petitioner. It was after I talked to him and his wife, and we were standing in his front yard, and we were talking about how like everything's dead. And I'm looking over it, and like it looks dark. It's like there's no way that's really going to rain here. And but we were just commenting on how dry everything was. And so as I was driving home, it just kept coming closer. I was like, this could actually turn into something. And then I got home, and my wife said the radar looked like it was just going to go around us, which happens. But then it started
Right.
raining. Like we had a good probably like 45-minute shower with lightning, and I mean
Nice.
it was dude, it was so awesome. It was so nice. My kids didn't know what it was because they're so young. It had been so long since they had seen rain. But no, it was just,
Right.
but we were all just trying to hang out outside on the porch.
They were so confused. They went out trying to do snow angels, but it was just mud, right?
Yeah, it's just mud. They did mud angels. Yeah.
They didn't know what to think anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got it at the beginning of the week. They were saying 1 or 2 days, but we only got it for 1 day. It just kind of went through for half a day, and now we have a few sprouts of green, but the rest is still brown.
That's cool. At least got some rain. It's been bone
Yeah.
dry.
Yeah, I went out and stood in it for a little while just to soak it in.
Yeah, I stood out there and I was like, oh, it's cold. Forget this. I'm not gonna mess with that. I want to enjoy it,
That's funny.
not be uncomfortable.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
I remember when I was a kid, man, we used to, when I lived in Austin, we used to play in the rain. I was 11 back then.
When you were
And,
a kid,
Yeah.
I thought they had rain. I thought it was just everything was nourished by the dew of the earth back then.
Right. Right. That's funny.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, it's been a pretty quiet Masonic week for me. I'm trying to think. We had a standing meeting on Monday. It was uneventful, which is good. And then Saturday we had like yesterday we did a district breakfast, and then we went to one of my lodges and we had a lodge cleanup. And we cleaned up, man. We cleaned up. We got rid of some stuff. The goal is
Nice.
we're gonna start remodeling, making it look nice inside again. And to do that, you can't work around junk. The dew of Dennis.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't want to think about the dew of Dennis, David. That's the story.
Dennis does. Dennis is the doer. So, yes, I get it. The do of Dennis.
Okay.
Dennis the doer.
We
Yeah,
got-
and that's something that most people don't realize is that, go ahead, say who we got.
Oh, hold on. We still got a picture up. Let me see what I did here. We got. Oh, it should be gone though. I guess.
See, now you just wasted my
I
time.
guess you. No, we got Caleb Betts, Charles Smith, David McLean, Seth Charles, David Lawson, Adrian Martinez. A good
Nice.
group. Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
Thank you for joining us tonight.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the one thing that a lot of people don't realize. And with all the rental properties that I have, the biggest thing you can do, and the one thing every landlord does, is when somebody moves out, you just paint. Paint is cheap, and it makes everything look brand new again, right?
Yeah.
So it's we have to pay a cleaner to come in. They clean real good, and then we paint the whole place and get it ready for the next renter. Because regardless of how long they stay, there's going to be scratches on the wall. There's going to be smudges. There's going to be this. There's going to be that. I mean, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
And the same with the lodge. I mean, over time, it doesn't matter how well you keep up your lodge. It just needs to be painted every once in a while. And it's the cheapest thing to protect your investment.
Yeah.
So invest in the outside and invest on the inside. That's the cheapest way you can protect your investment is with paint.
Well, we're probably not going to paint because it has that old, like the 70s, 80s. Everyone's grandparents had it, like the wood panel walls, and you know what I'm talking about?
Well, yeah, that's what I have in all my apartments.
Yeah.
I tore down a house that had all wood paneling, old school wood paneling, and I saved it so that I could panel my walls in the apartments. Because for anybody who's thinking about renting, they're expensive. It's $30 per panel. But if you put wood paneling up and somebody tries to put their fist through the wall, it's not going to work as easy as if you have sheetrock up. So believe me, they'll try it once, but they won't do it again.
Yeah. But this also has
but I paint over it.
Yeah, this has termite damage, and for some reason there's spots where it had been like cut out and patched poorly, with different, like, it looks bad, and so it's just old, and it's coming. It's just nasty in places. Like, I agree. Like, if it looked good, you could probably paint it, and I think right behind it is probably just brick, like the exterior brick wall. So we're gonna look at doing some, maybe like taking the panel off and sealing it and painting it or something like that, which will make it look 100 times better.
Yeah, even painted brick looks. I mean, paint just makes it look fresh.
It does.
And I'm surprised that you have wood damage from insects, because believe it or not, what they use to make that is formaldehyde. All the particle wood type stuff has formaldehyde in it. So very rarely do you have wood destroying insects.
Well, it's my understanding they had pretty bad termites at one point, and they got rid of them all. So maybe it's just that there was so many of them, they were so abundant. Right. Or maybe, I don't know.
Well, a lot of times on the base of the floor, that's just regular wood, and so they go after that.
Yeah. And
then it just gets the rest.
And that's where a lot of it is, like lower. But there's also, I mean, it hasn't been well maintained for a long time, and
but that's great though that y'all are doing that, and that's the positive that we should be, really focusing in on, because so many lodges let it go too long before they do it, and then it ends up costing you more money.
Well, there's a little bit of resistance, but not much. But there's always some resistance, and a lot of the stuff came from a lodge that merged with it about 3 years ago. And it just, all their stuff just sat there in a corner in the dining room for a long time. And people had plenty of opportunity to come pick stuff up if they wanted it and do something with it. And it's gone. It's gone. Like the important stuff, like the minutes and the records and the past master pictures. We kept that. We kept that. We weren't being disrespectful, but like stuff the lodge already had. Like as far as large furniture, if it was better, we kept it. But if it was broken or anything like that, we just got rid of it. And it had been posted before, so anyone that had wanted it had got what we had at the time. And it just made sense just to clear it out. But some of the people still came by to see what we're throwing away. It's like, well, if you cared, you should have took it home or done something with it. You had 3 years to do it.
Right. Well, load up your car now.
Yeah, load up your car now. Absolutely. The only thing we didn't get rid of. They had a giant, I mean, it thing's hideous. It's painted gold. It's ugly. A giant piano, and it's just too heavy. You couldn't even move it. So we're gonna find a different way to get that out of there. It's never used.
We have one. Like, yeah, we have one on our, actually, that's up there in the east, and man, is it heavy. Mm-hmm. We moved it whenever we were redoing the lodge and taking all the carpet out and redoing the floors and stuff, and Oh my goodness. And we didn't even move it off the out of the east because we've got 3 stairs going up to the east. We just moved it over, took that section, did it, and then moved it back because it was so heavy.
Yeah. We had also just rows and rows and rows of like that stadium seat that is so popular at lodges for some reason.
Right.
But they were like in the dining room. No one was ever going to use them. They're just sitting in the dining room, and it made all the tables get pushed together more than they had to. So walking, like whenever people would have dinner before a lodge, it was hard to walk.
Y'all should have posted that online to see if any lodges wanted. People still
the stadium
buy
seat.
that stuff.
It had
They
been
still want that.
It had been posted.
I don't know
before.
why.
I don't know either. It had been posted. We were ready just to get rid of it. Like a lot of it had been sold in the past.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I know what you mean, and it could have been, but I think sometimes you just gotta get rid of stuff.
Well, we have that stuff, and I really don't like it in our lodge. It really has no place in our lodge because it's you've got 2 different generations, 2 different eras of antiquity, let's say. You know, you've got the 60s and then you've got the way back 1850s, you know, and do you really want that? That doesn't really look good. You might as well get some nice oak chairs.
I agree.
And
the thing
but
is,
you know, those are expensive.
Nice chairs. We have nice chairs. So the idea is like we can get rid of these things and use the nice chairs.
Is exactly.
I mean, why have? I mean, one side of the lodge is nice, like leather or fox leather chairs.
Yes.
And the other side is the stadium seating. It's like, why don't we? And the fox chairs go like all along the walls. Like, why don't we get rid of this stadium seating and just kind of redistribute the chairs?
Is that fox or is it faux?
It's fox. It's definitely fox.
FAUX?
It's fox leather. No, FOX. It's fox.
Oh.
I don't know. Faux, fox, whatever. Faux. Hello,
that's like somebody saying GIF or GIF.
Or Mimi. I saw a Mimi about that. Faux leather. There
now, well, that's just the older generation understanding what that stuff is because I was around when it came out, when everything faux came out. That was my generation. We went artificial in my generation, so
yeah.
That's why I know.
So
that's funny.
I'm excited that it's the first time I've really been in a lodge where there's not really a whole lot of opposition to improving things, and so I'm enjoying it. I originally joined just to help out, and I told them I'd help out for a year, but I'm too busy, right? So I'll help out for a year, and help it kind of get back on its feet. But I'm really enjoying it, so I'll probably stick around for a while. Are they not able to be restored? They may have been. It was really we want to get things out of the way so we.
You want uniformity.
Well, we want uniformity, but really at the end of the day, we want to strike while the iron is hot, and everyone's being open to doing things in the lodge. So it's easy to say, well, we'll restore them or we'll sell them, and then they end up sitting in the lodge, and we're waiting on them all to sell, if that makes sense.
Well, and for the same amount of money that you'd spend on restoring something like that, you can go and buy new chairs. It really isn't cost effective to do that with that old stadium seating. You might as well sell it to somebody who wants it for their, for their retro theater room or something like that. Because really, those don't really belong in a lodge, anyways, in my opinion.
Well, like the Heavyset Brothers, I can't even send those things. It's embarrassing.
Right.
So just do away with them. Like
in fact, that's one of the things that somebody asked about the master's degree on the Lex, because it is stadium seating inside the auditorium.
It's true.
But we do have rows for folding chairs where we do have brothers that are sitting there. So that's a good point.
Yeah, I seem to remember there being like chairs as well as the folding chairs. So there should be options, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So what's been going on in your world? There's lots of conversation going on, but no questions or anything right now.
Okay. It's been kind of crazy with me being off work.
Yeah.
It's just been different. speaking of rental properties, I've got one. I need to finish up and get somebody in one of the houses. But yeah, I've been doing some writing. I've had a few people request for me to come speak at their lodges, and um, I've had two in the past week, and I need to respond. I need to get them on the books and respond as to when I'll be available. But yeah, it's just keeping on going.
Yep.
I was trying to make an agenda today, and I couldn't find the right template I wanted to use for the agenda for the summit.
Yeah. Someone asked about that, like a not an agenda, but like a itinerary. It's like, well, I think with the itinerary you list what everybody's talking about, and I think we still got a few unknowns. But
well, they're the only unknowns. Jim let me know what his is pertaining to. I'll talk to you about it in a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no title for it yet. But the
you.
only other unknown really is most worshipful Shank, and his is more of a Q&A during the dinner. Give people a chance to talk about what all we talked about throughout the day.
Yeah.
That kind of thing, and ask questions about Grandmaster stuff and what they see going on in New Mexico if they want to or whatever. I like his discussions. He bases it on an idea, but it kind of takes its own course. It's really an organic way that he does it. He never has just a prepared speech or anything that he does.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
hey, some people can pull that off. I mean, I'm not that guy, but some people can do it. They do it well.
Right. I love those kind of discussions. I'm just not that guy.
Yeah, I know. Like Jim Rumsey. I mean, you put him on point, and he's got something interesting to talk about.
Dude.
Always.
Ask Jim. He's like the 8-ball, man. You just shake him up a little bit, and he's going to start talking about something.
Yeah, you just ask a question, it turns into a fascinating hour-long presentation you weren't expecting.
Yes.
Like, whoa,
yes.
Okay. Yeah. I was not to go off on a tangent, but I was sitting in a lodge one time with Right Worshipful. The question came up. It was I think it was Billings year, and someone brought up the aprons, like the past master aprons. They had a question about that, and Right Worshipful stood up and he launched into like this 30-minute oration. Like he was quoting laws and their interpretations and all this stuff just on the fly. Right. Nobody knows, nobody knows the law book or past masters' decisions or the minutes of like old Grand Lodge meetings better than Jim Ramsey. I mean, he could just pull it out of thin air.
Oh yeah, I mean that's one of the things that's cool about the trustees meetings when he's around, because they're always leaning on him for reference about everything.
David Lawson asked if either of us are members of TLR. I'm not. Yes,
I am.
You are?
Yes.
I'm not. Because if I did it, I want to be a full member. I just don't have the time. I don't have the time. I'm actually kind of at a point where I have to step back a little bit, just because my kids are getting older and things like that. And so, I would like to maybe one day, but it's not.
I'm not a full member yet, and it's not that I haven't written enough papers in my lifetime, but I'm not that guy that likes to do research kind of papers. That's not me. I'm more of a, I'm going to take a thought and I'm going to encapsulate what I think in regards to that. I'll give a rebuttal on what I believe that thought is, and I'm not going to reference anybody or say, because he's dead, I believe this, because my thoughts are my own, and I may have run across something 30 years ago that influenced the reason I'm talking about something today. And I'm not going to remember all those people or all those books or whatever. It's not that important to me. I've got too much information in here to worry about all the little stuff.
Yeah, I had a few, going back to what you're talking about, like the presentations and stuff. I had a few people ask me, and like they're always asking like what present. And I kind of following your lead because I kind of following because they ask, what do you present over, and now it's just more like I'd rather just write something based off what you need at your lodge. And you told me you do that, and I was like, that's a good idea, rather than just having a few canned speeches that may or may not apply. Because I've done that before. I've drove to like San Antonio and give presentations that, come to find out, did not apply to the lodge at all, or they just weren't interested in it. It's like, well, let me know from now on. Let me know. And sometimes they don't.
I had one. Yeah, I get it. I had one presentation one time, and this is what made me start thinking about doing this. I get up and I've got this big presentation. I'm excited about giving it, and I'm sitting here and I've got some prominent figures in the room with me, and I'm fixing to give this presentation, and I look over and I realize that somebody's got their flap up, and it's like their bib up. It's like, oh. So I shit you not.
What's kind of in the presentation, the lodge not to say something.
Right. And I shit you not. I'm in the lodge. I look at that, and so I grab half of the documents. I said, well, since this isn't a master's, I just threw them. There goes that part of me. And I just threw them up in the air and let them go, because I was so frustrated because of that. And so now I always ask, ahead of time, because most of my content I'd rather speak on a master's level so that we can all get as deep as I feel like getting.
Yeah.
But if I have to, I can shallow it up some.
Well, yeah.
But then also some lodges, they can't get to the deep esoterics. You have to speak on certain things.
Yeah. Sometimes milk for the babies, right? Meat for the men, milk for the babies. The old esoteric saying. But which may be too deep for some people just at that level. But yeah, that one particular lodge, and you spoke there before. They were just like, hey, talk about whatever you'll talk about. So I was like, well, I got that endowment presentation, like the financial presentation. So I went and gave it, and I traveled with somebody, and as I'm talking, I see the treasurer lean over and hand him some papers, and like we had to get the sign and leave because I it was a turn and burn kind of thing. He's like, hey, the treasurer gave me a copy of his treasury report. So like they're like, why are you giving us this presentation? So
right, that's funny.
Yeah,
it's hit or miss sometimes, so I try to narrow it down. So that's a good way to do it.
Yeah,
for sure.
Like that. Most deaf. So we got 19 days now, in 11 hours, in 35 minutes, in 40 seconds, 39 seconds, 38 seconds,
38
until the summit. That's right around the corner, man.
Yeah, you're gonna give me ulcers.
I saw we sold another ticket to a very well-known traveling Mason. Did you see that? See who it was?
I wasn't looking today.
Oh, it was. Maybe it was yesterday.
But I have noticed the last few days that we've sold several. Every time somebody posts nowadays, people are starting to realize, oh, I forgot.
Yeah. Well, I think we knew that it would start picking up as
it always does.
Yeah.
I'm bad. I'm bad about that too.
Yeah.
I wait until the last minute, and I shouldn't do that. After this experience, I won't do that anymore.
No, that's exactly why I went. Like when Masonic Con started selling tickets, I bought it like as soon as I saw it, just because I know how frustrating it is now. Right, you're trying to figure things out, you're trying to get everything planned, and you don't know how many people are showing up.
Right.
I will say this. I was I really enjoyed Masonic Con. I have no complaints. However, there was a section where they did like a board where they're asking questions.
Yes.
And it felt like you had a handful of people asking like such specific what if questions. Like there was nothing really being gained from it. It was kind of frustrating. So I think if we do questions at the festive board, we need to probably be specific. Like, hey, let's not focus on very specific what if questions that may only appertain to you or scenarios that may never happen. Because it just went off on this whole thing. It's like that's never going to happen, or what are the odds? So,
Yeah, you don't want to waste an hour talking about a what if.
yeah.
That's for sure. You know, we had somebody I remember during the officer leadership training when we were doing the mentorship program. And we had that one guy that just wanted to get so deep into his particular issues with his lodge, and it was all negative towards mentorship. And it's, dude, I finally cut him off, and I got in trouble for that because I took the spotlight off of him and put it back onto our other guest because he was trying to.
Oh.
When the little surveys came out, I had one person that decided they didn't like how I treated them, and so yeah.
Well,
that's okay.
Yeah, it is okay.
That's okay.
It is okay. I'm sorry you're sensitive.
I am much better for it.
Yeah.
I can tell you.
That's silly.
Yep. But anyways, that, it can happen, and that's if I have that, and I notice that when we're doing our presentations, because after each presentation we're going to have some opportunity for people to ask questions on the presentation.
Yeah.
And then of course the festive board is going to be its own thing, and there's going to be its own discussion.
Yeah.
But if I notice any talk going down a rabbit hole, I'm going to have to intervene and kind of steer it back to a more wide range discussion, because we're trying to help everybody and not help one person figure out how to deal with one past master in his lodge, right?
Yeah. Well, it's like we have
one weird obscure thing that may never happen to any other lodge that happened to in their lodge.
Well, in education, we have a lot of meetings that could be handled with emails, right? And you have there's always like one person that we're wrapping up and they start asking questions, and it's something that they could easily just pull the presenter aside after or send an email and get the information, right? And so don't hold everybody up for a question. It could be an email, that kind of thing.
Right. Well, and I don't want to. I don't want people to think that I'm going to be like some crazy person, not allowing discussion.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, you all know that guy that stands up when after somebody says, is there any, after the master says, is there anything else that you can bring before this lodge before closing? There's always that guy that stands up, right?
Yeah.
We don't need a bunch of those guys. We need to stay in the moment, stay with the discussion, and then once it's time to close, let's close.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's just one of those things, like a reminder, like, hey, if you got a question and you think everybody's going to benefit from it, feel free to ask, because there's questions like that, and there's a lot of people that won't ask because they think it just pertains to them. It's weird because you got some questions that some people that just refuse to ask questions because they feel like it just pertains to them, but then you have people that have questions that just pertain to them, but they think everybody should hear
that think it's everybody.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
and the reality is, in that there's truth to be said. It's a balancing act, because really, if one person says something, usually there's 3 or 4 people that are thinking it, right? If I have somebody tell me something that they're thinking about something I've said or something I've done, and they're telling me, they're whispering wise counsel, I don't think of it as just that one person. I always think that, look, if he's saying it, there's probably a few other people that are thinking it. So maybe I do need to consider this and take some real thought into what's being said and what I can do to change my perspective, or just change how I get my point across to somebody,
Yeah, I agree.
But then you're right, there are those ones. It's all of them.
Yeah. Well, I think after that incident you were talking about, we were pretty good. Like ask your question, and if it starts to go down the rabbit hole, hey, let's pause this and we could talk after the presentation, like one-on-one,
right,
if you got more questions. But yeah, no point
Well, and
holding a
kind
whole presentation for a few questions.
yeah, and we plan on having a similar type roundtable discussion for Masonic improvement at the event, and whether we do it with or without questions is still to remain. I enjoyed when we did Masonicon last year and had all the presenters there talking about Masonicon and the benefits of it and how they felt about how it went.
What are you
You
talking
know,
about when we made the video in the? Is that what
when
you're
we
talking
went
about?
upstairs and made
Yeah,
that video and had that, yeah,
that was good.
and yes, and I'd like to do at least that at the summit, but we may, of course, when we do that, we'll probably do it with people around so that, and then also allow people to ask questions. But when they ask questions, I think I'd like generalized questions like, what has been your favorite moment in Freemasonry, or what has been, if you could take anything away from what you've learned this weekend, what would it be? Those kind of questions. You know what I mean?
Yep. We do have two questions on chat.
Yeah, let's do it.
First is David Lawson. Do y'all remember the year the Grandmaster had the education booklet, the short talks, with different topics set to the lodges?
The Leo program,
Uh,
Lodge Education
yeah.
Officer Program. Yes,
He
I
still
was
has
a
it.
Leo.
Were you?
Yes.
And he just says he still has it and that was really good. I thought the topics were good, but I think if you hand anybody just a general topic and say, hey, we present this in 10 minutes without them having time to really look over it or anything like that, it's not a good presentation, if that makes sense. Now, if you give them time and if it's something like if you gave them the whole booklet, like the Leo, and they actually spent time looking over it, like, hey, I really like this presentation. Let me add a few things, kind of make it my own, that sort of thing. I think that's great. But I think if you just take a canned presentation, and I saw it happen a lot, and the worship master would be like, hey, Leo's not here. Would you read this? And it's just like a
Right.
yeah. So I mean,
Well,
there's some good stuff in there.
it kind of comes across like when the junior warden stands up and reads the law, a portion of the law. If he just stands up and reads just whatever portion of the law for whatever reason, that doesn't really, I don't like that so much. But when he actually looks at what the agenda is and picks out laws that pertain to whatever's going on at that time with the lodge, that's what I like. When you can, make it applicable to what you're doing. And I think the Leo program was a great place to start. But I think ultimately the best program for a lodge is to have a committee or say, okay, each month somebody's going to take it, and until everybody has taken it, that usually shows up, at least one of the officers or something. And that way you have, 8 right there, 8 to 10 right there.
Yeah.
And then say, okay, this is your month. You do a presentation on what you feel like is important for the lodge. This is your month. You do a presentation for what you think is important. And look for facts, look for data, look for, do some research on it. Not only is that helping the lodge to learn something, but it's causing that person to dig deeper within to learn a little bit more themselves.
Yeah.
And that's where I think you become a stronger lodge, when you start having that mentality of, we expect you to learn something as you go. That's how I feel about it.
If they're looking at data, doing research, truth is truth, right? And so they may be going in and say, hey, I want to prove this idea wrong. And then they realize, oh, crap, I was wrong.
Right.
And it gives them an opportunity to learn. So most definitely. Yeah. So there's another question here. It just says GA is the name. Will you guys elaborate a little on the apprenticeship process and how long it takes to complete it, or is that too much to ask? So, if you're talking about like going through the degrees, like EA and Fellowcraft and Master Mason,
so he's probably a non-member.
It sounds like it. It sounds like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
That really just depends on the lodge and the jurisdiction. So I can't give you
and the person.
And the person. Yeah. So it's hard to give a straightforward answer because it really it's not that I wouldn't be happy to, but it really just depends. I personally, I think I took about 5 months to go through everything, maybe 6. It didn't feel like it was. It was less than a year, but I feel like I went so quickly. At the same time, I didn't really learn anything. I just memorized a bunch of stuff, and so I mean, your mileage may
And
vary.
I was just the opposite. I actually took longer than the year that you're allowed, and they had to extend me a month to be able to finish my stuff, because at the beginning I got pretty lazy with it, and I didn't set up a plan to actually do it. And I enjoyed my Freemasonry, and I was present to every event. I did everything that was asked. I went to all the education programs there was, and but I really screwed the pooch on doing my work that I should have done.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could have not been a Mason after that period if they decided not to, and it would have been nobody's fault but my own. So it really is just the journey of the person. But in Texas, you have up to a year to learn the stuff you're supposed to learn and memorize. Really, not necessarily learn, but memorize, and then you go from there.
Yeah. So that's why I don't really like to. I know people have different opinions. I don't really like to put a lot on them as they're going through the degrees. Like some people are like, hey, put them on a committee, let them do this, let them do that. It's like, man, they just need to focus on learning their stuff right now. Me personally.
And that's why I have told so many people, just get through it first.
Yeah.
And then we'll go back and talk about all as deep as you want to go. I'll take you down that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
But first, just do your stuff, because I want to be able to see you on the other side.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do stuff, you won't be on the other side.
Well, they'll have the rest of their lives to serve on committees or confer help with degrees or all the above. Right? They'll have the rest of their lives, but get through those first 3 degrees first. Memorize whatever's required in your jurisdiction, and then once you're a master mason, you're done with your memorization and everything. Go wild. Go, start learning lectures. Start volunteering for whatever you want to. Do the independent bodies if you want to, but don't even put any of that stuff on your radar until you are at that point.
Right.
I think there's something to be said about focusing on what's in front of you and taking care of that instead of, because it's easy to get overwhelmed, right, by everything that's out there. But if you just focus on what's in front of you and take care of what you know, just one step at a time. This is what I have to do before I can do anything else. So just take it one bite at a time. Eat that elephant one bite at a time. And don't get overwhelmed by the size of the elephant. Just focus on that next bite.
Right. Yeah, that's what I do even today with the presentations that I give. Whenever a lodge contacts me, I save a file in Word. I save it as this date, this lodge, this presentation, this is what they asked me on. And that way, when I go to, I have a certain day, couple of days a week, 2 or 3 days a week, that I'll go and I'll look at my files and say, okay, what have I got to write on? The next one is this one. That's what I write on.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I organize that, because if I thought about all these lodges, I mean, I'm booked until April of next year already, through April of next year. And if I thought about all that at one time, I'd be paralyzed.
Yeah, I think my last one that I have right now is also in April. I think that's the last thing I have scheduled at this time. So yeah, it's there's a lot to it, man.
Yeah. So I still practice those principles because I learned the hard way, going through the work. There's you have to plan accordingly. To enjoy your Freemasonry, you have to plan, and that's really a good life lesson.
Yep.
It really is, and it's one of the first lessons you're taught in Masonry, as a matter of fact, and it's not just on a daily basis, but it's also on a monthly and yearly basis that you need to take it to really enjoy your Freemasonry.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I was telling somebody last night, as a matter of fact, we were at my daughter's banquet um, for gymnastics, and I was telling somebody last night that we almost forgot that it was going on, but it was on my calendar, so I knew I was coming. And if it's not on my calendar, I won't be there. I won't apologize for it either. If you don't have me put it on my calendar, I'm not going to be there. So don't even look at me funny if I'm not there.
Yeah. Yeah, my calendar pretty much dictates everything I'm doing.
Yeah.
So.
And I used to not be that way, but I am today, and I can
yeah.
thank Freemasonry for that.
I mean, as you were talking about the presentations, I really don't know how many presentations I have right now. I don't know when they are. I know I don't have anything this coming week or the week after that, but it's all on the calendar. It's so it lets me know.
I have one the week after the summit.
Oh, really? Gosh.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, but from now till then, I have, blocked. Well, actually, Thursday we got Scottish Rite, so I do have something for Thursday.
I think actually, I talked to Larry Fitzpatrick at Masonicon, and I think they're going to do a reunion.
I love Larry. He's
great.
One of the brightest minds
on the show
in Texas.
But I think they're going to do a reunion in Dallas like the week after Masonicon. Not Masonicon, the summit.
The summit.
And so, yeah, I'll
Good.
hopefully do that. Nice. David Lawson says, so are your presentations just your own thoughts or in your own education, or do you use references also? Yeah, I use Dennis as a reference, and he used me as a reference. So we cross-reference each other. No, it's
but I throw a little Pike and Mackey and Manly P. Hall in there as well. So you get a little bit of reference, but I'm not going to tell you what book and what date or what page and all this kind of garbage. I'm not that guy.
Yeah. I don't use references. I just talk to my own thoughts, my own opinions. Oh boy.
Well, and it depends on the topic as well. Usually, if I'm going to an esoteric nature discussion, or if I'm referencing something that I remember from a specific book or whatever, I'll say that author. But otherwise, if it's just a thought that came into my head because of some things that I've read, there's too many authors out there that discuss the same things to attribute one single thought to any one author, in my opinion. I
enjoy Masonic books, but I don't think there's a Masonic book out there with an original idea.
No.
And so saying you gotta, who am I going to refer to? Any modern author is probably going to refer to Pike at some point. Yeah, and Pike probably referred to Plato several times. Or some Greek philosopher, and who knows where they got their ideas from. So it's I'm not justifying plagiarism or anything like that, but or laziness. But there's nothing new under the sun, right? Remember the saying? It's so it is what it is.
And really, when we talk about things, it's not to tell people that this is the way it is. It's to get you to start thinking, get your own wheels churning. Because usually when I say something, it's far enough out there that it challenges whatever you're thinking. Sometimes it's not. A lot of times it's not. But when I start going esoteric, it challenges people to start thinking about their own beliefs and what they're thinking on certain things. And most of my discussions are call to action discussions. So when you're done, I'm telling you, you need to be thinking about this. You need to be doing this. And so your wheels should be churning already and going back into your own reference and coming up with thoughts. That's my goal. My goal is to get you churning. That's my goal.
David asks, have y'all seen Billy Hamilton's book on Lightfoot's writings? It's really good. I saw Billy at Masonicon.
I've seen it.
Yeah, and I don't guess he had any copies there. I don't remember why I didn't get a copy. Just to say I read it, but I've heard things. Yeah. Austin White's here. What's up, Austin?
And see, that's a lot of, and I know it takes a lot of research to do something like that. and he is taken, from a lot of different books and a lot of different, things that are being said. But that's a lot like what TLR is, in my opinion. Texas Lodge of Research. It's really just referencing a bunch of other people's work, and I'm really not so interested in that myself. I'd rather just read the book and form an opinion from reading that book than to have bits and pieces. That's one of the reasons I don't really like pastors so much, because they'll take one little piece of the scripture and paint this big picture, this big storyline on one little piece of scripture, and it's like, really, dude, that there's 100 different pieces of scripture that surround that, and you're taking this one little piece to fill your narrative, right? And I'm not saying that that's what Billy did at all. Don't get me wrong, because I know he was just bringing out the best in Lightfoot by doing that. And my hats off to him. I'm glad somebody's doing something in Freemasonry, creating new content for brothers to read.
Yep.
It's a good introductory book for some people to get thinking about those things, so they will go read the books that Lightfoot's written. But at the same time, I'm not much of that bits and pieces kind of guy.
Austin White says, if y'all would have come to Billy's talk at the Temple Chapter and Council, you could have gotten a signed copy. We'll tell you what, Austin, we'll invite Billy to Hillsboro, and it'll be even more awesome, and you can get signed copies there. Austin, am I going to see you? Are you going to be coming with Matt? I know Matt's
I see Billy all over the state.
Yeah.
Why do I have to go to Waco to see him when I can see him up in Fort Worth or Dallas or San Antonio or Houston? Because I see him all over the place.
Why would you have to go to Waco when you can see him in Fort Worth? You live in Goliad. Waco's closer.
I see him everywhere, though. Why do I have to go to Waco out of my way when I'm already going to see him in Houston?
Got you. I think I will invite him to I'd consider inviting him to come talk at our chapter council sometime. So if he'll go to the Temple, I'll definitely invite him to, because we know Hillsboro's better anyway. So if he'll go to the Temple, he'll definitely come to Hillsboro.
Right. But Billy, he's a brilliant man, and I'm glad that he did write something. Yeah. I am very glad that he wrote something, because he does have a lot of good thoughts, and I know that whatever he put in his book, there's some good thought behind it, because he's got a heart of gold too.
Well, he put together when Sam Kybers couldn't present at Masonicon, I guess they asked Billy to put something together kind of last minute, and he gave like a really great presentation over I think I talked about last time. It was Cochran. I can't remember his first name, but he was one of Lightfoot's mentors. And did I tell you about this? Where he went overseas during World War One in like a delegation to see what the Scottish Rite could do to help out with the war efforts. And the war ended when he was there, and he went around the battlefield. Some battlefield. I'm not a historian, but there was a battlefield out there. He went around tugging on Germans' heads until basically one was popped off, and he took the skull back overseas.
Brought the skull back?
Yeah.
I've heard that there's been several people that
do what?
I've heard that there's been several people that have done that got the skulls from the Nazis.
I just get a visual of people. Well, it was World War One, but yeah, it's still Germans, but they're going around.
Oh, okay.
Going around in the battlefield.
I thought you were talking.
Just disturbing thing about people going around tugging on heads until one's ripe, until the apple comes off the tree. Pull it off. And then it's right after a battle, so it's not just a skull. There's gotta. Like the taxidermy where they
who do you take it to and ask them, can you clean this up?
What's that mount called with deer where like they take the skull and they put in the bucket?
Taxidermy.
They dissolve the flesh off of it, so you have the skull. It's some kind of mount. It's got to be something similar. Like you take the head, you like dissolve the flesh and have the. That's so morbid to think about that, but yeah. But anyway,
I don't know, but I cleaned a boar in a bathtub one time. There's a buddy of mine It was so funny. He called me one weekend. He said, "Man, I shot my first hog this weekend." I said, "Oh yeah, really? Cool. How big was he?" He said, "Well, about the size of my bathtub." I said, "What?" He said, "Yeah, I didn't know what to do with it, so I carried it up into my apartment
How? How?
in a duffel bag. He carried it up into his apartment in a duffel bag.
I have so many questions.
I know, I know. I had so many questions, and I wondered if I was going to be an accomplice, thought of as an accomplice, walking in and out of that apartment. But yeah, I went up there and helped him clean it, showed him how to clean it. That was so funny.
Wow. I
Yeah,
mean, a hog that big had to weigh probably like what, 500 pounds? Is it as big as a
yeah.
bathtub?
But he's a big dude. He's a big, hefty man. I can tell you.
And then like, how does
He's
that
probably
look
three
when
of
you
me.
got someone with a bloody duffel bag carrying it up to their apartment?
I know.
European mount. That's what I was thinking. Yeah, like a European mount. Well, I
And
guess it would
what's
have. I guess it really would have been a European mount, wouldn't it? You took
and
a-
what's funny, yeah, right. What's funny is that he had killed it with the AK-47
Hmm.
because down in South Texas, a lot of people will go down with the machine guns and
Oh
slaughter a
yeah.
bunch of hogs at one time because there's so many.
Well, I've heard of like
But
helicopter flights, like where you can just book a
yeah,
helicopter
they
and
do it here in Goliad. There's a
take them.
guy that makes a living doing that.
Yeah, yeah, it's crazy that there's just so many of them. Do they all get processed, or is it just for like people do that for fun, or what?
Sometimes they will, other times they won't. It just depends on how big it is.
Yeah, I don't really get killing things just for the sake of killing things, right? Unless it's like pest
Well, for
control, and I
them,
know it
it's
is an
it's
issue.
really yeah, it's a real issue down here for sure.
Yeah, that's true. I just hate to think. I hate to see things get wasted. Like if you're gonna kill it and process it, but I understand like sometimes you gotta do that.
Yeah, it's almost like roaches in some of these ranches. It really is because there's so many of them. There'll
Yeah.
be times when you'll see hundreds of them laying down, all slaughtered or all killed in one day.
Hmm.
Just hundreds of them piled up. It's crazy.
Well, it's because we took all the predators out of the ecosystem.
Yep.
Yeah, it was. I was at. I think it was Robert Marshall was talking one time. Baylor has the Baylor Bears. Well, the reason is because Waco used to have bears,
Right.
and and really any kind of like human colony civilization, right? What we do is we actively go and pursue the predators in our area to try to reduce the threat, right? And so that's pretty much what Waco did. I mean, they handled them basically to extinction in that area. But I mean, we did that everywhere, and so now you have this this animal that has no real predator anymore, and that's why they're
Yeah, it's
reproducing like
imbalance.
crazy. Yeah, it's out of balance, man. Too much yin, not enough yang.
Yep. And we all need our yang.
Well, you need. Never mind. Never mind. Yeah. Also, why it says skulls and masonry. How dare you? Yeah, I know, right? Well, there was a time when we weren't very skittish. Well, apparently because they went overseas and ripped heads off. We've gotten soft.
Yep.
Cool.
We're no longer predators. We're afraid to kill.
Yeah, we're just consumers now.
Yep. We just graze on what's given to us, what's put in the trough.
Yeah. Oh, well, you got anything else you want to add? I kind of had an early morning today. You got any thoughts or anything you want to add? Go ahead and wrap up.
Um, hmm. Okay, here's the thought. When you do the 18th degree for in the Scottish Rite, it's the Knights of the Rose Croix, and
Is it Croy or Craw?
Croix. I can't say it completely right. I'm not French,
Is it a
but
fox
it's
name or
not
a phone
Croix.
name?
It's not Croix. I can tell you that.
Crah.
But it's actually Rose Croix. Rosaqua, I think is the right way to say it. But when you go through that degree, a lot of people feel like that's a Christian degree, but it's not. So I'll just throw that out there. A
Okay.
little, just cast out a little, see if you can bite. So when you do that degree, listen to it very carefully to exactly what they're saying, and and you'll see.
Okay. Will do.
But it's one of the it really does embody one of the most important things that we should always remember with Freemasonry, and that is that no one single religion or dogma is superior to any other, except for the thought of one grand architect, and and the respect for everyone else and their freedoms of religion and thought.
It really amazes me on the comments I get that how many because of that mentality that so many Christians think that we are just terribly evil people because we'll allow people from other faiths to join us. And it's like, dang, dude, like no, like Lions Club didn't get that kind of grief. Rotary doesn't get that kind of grief. The your political party doesn't get that kind of grief. Your job doesn't get that kind of grief. But for some reason, because we admit that we accept people of all faiths, that puts a big target on our back. It's like you can't just they just use it as like justification to justify their bias basically, because they
Right.
look for things like, oh well, you allow people other than Christian. It's like, yeah, we do, but so do most
Well,
other
and
organizations.
right, and but the thing is that not other all the other organizations, excuse me, not all the other organizations, they don't tell people right out that we're here to work on the internal.
Mm-hmm.
None of the organizations are saying that that's what they're there to do. They're service organizations working on the external, right? Well, we're an organization that's focused on working on the internal. We are not a service organization. We're working on the internal.
Yeah.
And so religious people that are religious to a fault in religion, they tend to feel that that's a threat. Anyone who doesn't believe exactly what they believe is a threat to their religion.
Yep.
And so it's a threat to what they believe. And so of course they're gonna try to attack it and go after it as much as they can.
Yep. I agree.
That's so true. And that's the same mentality. What's so scary and sad is that is the same mentality as the Muslims, the radical Muslims that want to kill people because they don't believe in Allah, right?
Yeah.
It's the exact same mentality,
Well,
but
keep in
just in
mind we have the
reverse.
same mentality in the Crusades.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
you take anything to extreme, and it's not just zealous, but it can be dangerous to other people.
Well, what's interesting though is that it seems like a lot of those people in the Crusades that went over, of course you had the ones that were just flat out butchers,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of them were actually opened up to those other religions, and I think that that's where a lot of the commonality kind of took shape, that we like to focus on in Freemasonry.
I think a lot of these faiths have their own beauty, right? And it's just a matter of being able to be open. You know, we said this before. Like it's okay to observe other faiths and learn about other faiths without feeling threatened by it, right?
Right.
You can learn about it without feeling like, oh, God's gonna be mad at me because I'm learning about Muslim faith or something. I mean, it's
I think God would be more proud that you were focusing on that,
Yeah.
on him and on your spirit than the world.
I don't believe, regardless of what denomination you are, like we're talking from like a Judeo-Christian perspective, but it could be any religion. I don't think there's any mainstream religion that really has a belief in a deity that would really smile on ignorance, if that makes sense, right? We always associate it with light being wisdom and learning and intelligence and understanding, and not darkness, right?
Right.
So it's a good thing to learn about other faiths and other religions. It helps us all realize we're all humans here, and we all have different beliefs, but ultimately the beliefs are similar. You can say, well, he doesn't believe John 3:16. Well, that's fine. That's fine. It's not your job. It's not your job. And I know, like, well, the Bible says it's my job. No, dude, it's not your job. It's not your job. Let them believe. Let people believe what they want.
That's what one man wrote in the Bible.
That's what one man wrote.
That's not what God wrote. That's what one man wrote.
Yeah, and you could say, well, it's infallible. It's the word of God. Sure, but it was written by people and translated by people, and what stayed in and what didn't stay in was decided by people. And so, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. I might offend somebody, but
see, I'm not afraid to offend somebody.
I know you're not. I know, but I think the truths are still in there, but the details aren't. But the truth's in there.
Right. Well, and I think that's the beauty in the Scottish Rite. That's the whole reason why I brought it up, because you had said earlier that the reunion's coming up right after the summit, and ours is actually in October 13th and 14th for San Antonio. I've already got several brothers that have turned in their petitions. They're ready to go, and I'm excited for them. But in the Scottish Rite, you really do see that opening up of the mindset of this journey is bigger than any of us and any religion, period.
Yeah.
And none of us have the answers, but we can sit and philosophize on theology all day long.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing. That's the cool stuff. I enjoy that.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to wrap it up, dude. I'm going to call it a night. So, but yeah, it's a good conversation. Kind of a quiet night, but it's still a good conversation.
It's been a week. It's definitely been a week. It's been a tough week this week. I can tell you from experience. It's been tough. I'm sure everybody's worn out with school starting, and
dude, my last 3 weeks has just been a blur. Just a blur, and I enjoy it. I'm not complaining. Like I love teaching, but it's been a blur, man. So, all right. Well, we're gonna wrap it up, and hopefully see a lot of you at the summit. Hopefully see all of you if you're a Master Mason.
Yeah, go to if you want your ticket, you're a Master Mason. Go to MasonicSummit.com, and you can click on the link to get your ticket. And we would love to see you there.
That it's pinned at the top of the chat. So. Check it out. Grab a ticket. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be great. So, do that, man. Otherwise, see y'all next week. Later.
Keep it between the points, brothers.